And we're live. Excuse me. All right. Let's get going here. Get my show doc up. Here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. It's Friday, December 17th, 2021. Today, we're taking a look at some news, but we're also taking a look back at Apple in 2021 because this is the iMore show. Joining me, as always, is iMore contributor Karen Freeman. Hey, Karen.
Hello.
And joining us today as our special guest is iMore writer Luke Filipovich. Hey, Luke.
Hey, how's it going?
All right, let's jump into it. First things first, we had some software releases this week from Apple. Long in beta. We now have iOS 15.2, watchOS 8.3. We skipped 0.2 on that one. And macOS 12.1. 3.2.1 here. We've got some interesting new features. The digital legacy contacts are now in the system for iOS at least. I don't know that those are a feature in macOS yet, but still no universal control on macOS. They didn't show up in the beta, but well, one can hope. One of the big pieces of news with this, though, is the Apple Music voice plan is now here and available for anyone looking to predominantly use Siri with Apple Music. Luke, you've been using this for a couple of days now. Why don't you tell us about it?
Yeah, ever since Apple announced it, I was kind of interested in it just to see how it sort of compares. I mean, I've been on the individual plan for years and use Apple Music. I used to use it a lot more than I do now. In fact, funny story, I went to go get my replay playlist for 2021, and it told me that I hadn't listened to enough music in 2021 to make a playlist. So if there's a person who wants to drop down $5 off of his Apple Music cost, it might be me.
You're the perfect candidate.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, just because of when I subscribed, it actually was on the 14th or 15th. So I got to drop my old subscription, switch over to the new subscription kind of right away, which was nice. And yeah, I've been using it. And as someone who used Siri fairly often to interact with Apple Music already, especially on my HomePod Mini I have in my apartment, it kind of doesn't feel like much of a change. I think the biggest thing is just my initial assessment is kind of it's good for listening to music, less so good for finding music. If you're somebody who likes Apple Music to kind of rummage around and go through their library and actually kind of do some sort of self music discovery. It's a little harder for that because when you go into the search tab, you can search whatever you want. You can still search all of Apple Music and you can find, the newest album from your favorite band or whatever, but you can't actually tap that album and play that album from your screen. You have to ask Siri to play the album, which is going to drive some people insane. I think if that's the way that they do, if they want that, more, precise control, or if they do I know a lot of people who use Apple Music just to look up new things, look up when a new album comes out, look at the album art, do all that sort of stuff. And I feel like this is definitely aimed at a very more casual music listener experience. Somebody who, has maybe a set of AirPods and they go and they, maybe they don't listen to Apple Music all the time, but when they go for a run, they listen to Apple Music, or, when they're entertaining company, they'll throw on some background music for their dinner party or things like that. Things like that, the Apple Music voice plan is great at, because you can just ask Siri to play a bajillion different playlists. You still have access to your entire music library. So anything you've put on there or bought in the past, you still have access and control over that. So that doesn't go away or anything. So far I'm enjoying it. It's got a few quirks. It'll be interesting to see sort of how Apple changes it and how many more of those those special activity playlists that they plan on having. So there's a bunch now. There's a one called Nightcap, and you can be hey Siri, play my Nightcap playlist, which now it's probably one of my devices is going to do that since I just said it. But there's a bunch of different ones like morning coffee, wake up early, relaxing, chill. And like, it's all stuff that as somebody who likes kind of adapting music to his mood or to like what's going on around me, it's kind of nice that I can like just sort of be like, hey Siri, play music for chilling with friends, and there you go, it plays like a hanging with friends playlist. And like Apple plans on adding more of these playlists, and they don't just benefit the Apple Music voice plan subscribers either, because they're obviously just in Apple Music, so anybody who has access to Apple Music can also access these. So I think it's like just going to make using Siri even better for other people, for people who are, on the individual plan or on a family plan. Like, I think Siri and Apple Music is just going to get better because of this voice plan. But I do think that it's possible that this voice plan will sort of attract maybe a few stragglers that maybe haven't gone into Apple Music yet, just because it is so useful for, like getting tasks done. If that's kind of like when you listen to music, like, do you listen to music when you clean the house? Cool. Throw on, cleaning your house playlist. Or, do you listen to music when you're hanging with friends? Or do you listen to music when you're playing board games? Or do you listen to music when you like to read? But if you aren't necessarily that type of person. Oh, look at that. Siri's trying to do something now. If you aren't necessarily that person, if you are somebody who like, oh my goodness. If you aren't someone who uses Apple Music like that, if you are the more dedicated music fan who like really likes to go in and tweak their own playlists and kind of look for things and discover what Apple Music has to offer kind of every week, you're on there, it might not be the plan for you. That's kind of my initial assessment. But I think bottom line is it's just going to make Siri better for everybody when it comes to using Apple Music, because Apple's going to learn from this. They're going to learn how people are trying to interact with Siri as they do with Siri regardless. And they're going to learn, like, there's going to be better playlists that come out. And obviously Apple Music's pretty good at updating those playlists. Like, I don't know if you have like favorite Apple Music playlists you ever listen to, but they update them like fairly regularly. So constantly. I think you'll still be getting like new music through that experience. It just might not be quite as finite or quite as precise as you would if you're like looking through the Apple Music library all the time.
So can you say something like, play me some new music, or what's the latest from XYZ band, or
yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. Like you would be able to even before the music voice plan. So you can easily say, like, if you have a specific song, you can be like, play me Blinding Lights from The Weeknd. Or if you want to listen to the latest, I don't know, Claro album, you can simply say, play me the latest Claro album.
Because I'm not hearing any real downside to this plan. It sounds really great.
Yeah, like I said, I think the biggest downside is just like it's a little weird that like you can't quite. Yeah, you can still tap for playback control, obviously. Like once you're playing a song, you can go into now playing and you can hit pause and play and skip track and all that. Obviously, you can use Siri. Right. You can use Siri for that as well. I think that the biggest sticking point for some people will be that like the search capability is definitely a bit hampered, because you can't like look for an album and then click on that. You can still look for an album, but then you can't like click on that album or listen to all the songs.
But can you just say play? Like if you find it. So totally. I mean, really, it doesn't sound like the search is at all hampered. It's just like the actual hitting play. Like you just can't do it with your finger. You have to do it with your voice. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. And like in order to play a full album, like you have to say like play the album, right? You can't, okay. Which I know like a lot of people, I used to do this when I was more into music, but sometimes when a new music came out from a band, I would go to the newest album and I would like listen to like the first like minute of each song really quickly, just to kind of get like a feel of how the album is. And then I would actually listen to the whole album. Not everyone does that, but it did. Okay. I wouldn't be able to do that with this service. But since I don't listen to as much music anymore.
So you can't listen to just the first couple of seconds of each song on an album?
Yeah, like there is a preview, but not of each song. It's kind of like, it's usually the single off that album. It'll play like a preview for you. That's
getting very, very specific though. Do you know what I mean? Like that's something totally. Like that. To me, I'm not hearing anything that would discourage me from getting this voice plan.
Here's a question.
It sounds awesome.
if you're wearing, say, AirPods
Mhm.
and you're listening from your iPhone, are features like Dolby Atmos available?
Yep.
Okay.
Dolby Atmos is available. Is actually Atmos for sure, because I've definitely used that. I'm trying to remember if lossless is available. I'm pretty sure it is. I haven't actually specifically looked yet, but I'm fairly certain it is. Because I don't believe that was an extra, but I could be wrong now. I haven't. That's something I'd actually have to look into more. I know that Dolby Atmos is for sure.
Let's see. Let us look at the Apple Music website and see if no. Actually, this says that Dolby Atmos isn't available with voice.
Well, then I am mistaken. I could have sworn I saw it on there. Maybe it was Apple lossless that I saw. Now I'm getting them mixed up.
Yeah, lossless and Dolby Atmos only come in with the cheapest you can get is with the student plan, which is also $4.99, but you have to be a student.
Right. Okay, so there you go. So there
is the student plan the same as the regular plan?
Yeah,
just cheaper for students.
It's special pricing on the individual plan.
Right, but feature-wise, it's the same.
Yeah.
Okay, so that might be a reason.
Yeah,
to go
so that's
from the voice plan to the regular plan. If for like true audiophiles that want all the high-end sound.
Yeah, and that's good to know. Like I hadn't dove into this completely yet, so
yeah, you want to spend some time with this before you write a big piece about it for us.
Totally. Yeah, so the spatial and lossless audio are not available in the voice plan, which is a pretty big deal. As somebody who, like, when I bought my AirPods 3 was pretty excited to have spatial audio, that is definitely going to be a big deal to some people. Although, that being said, I've also been listening to it for a few days now, and I haven't seemed to really miss it. So maybe,
I mean, frankly, I'm not somebody that I think would notice or care about that, but certainly there is a population of people that care very much about Dolby Atmos and surround sound and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I think that goes with the sort of, once again, I'll have more nuanced opinions as probably in the new year when I spend a few weeks with the service. But like my sort of initial assessment is that it's good for what it is. But it's not for the people who want like the absolute control or like the absolute most out of Apple Music. It's people who like having music as a more casual experience in their life, I think.
Yeah. It sounds like a great place to start for anybody, and then they can always upgrade.
Yeah, and that's definitely a big play for Apple with this too. I think it's specifically like, I think they really think that I think their thinking is that the Apple Music voice plan is very good for people who maybe are picking up an HomePod Mini over Christmas, or maybe got one on a great Black Friday deal a few weeks back. I think if that's your main sort of Apple Music device, you're using that with Siri anyways, right? Like that's how you interact with your HomePod the entire time. So if that's in your kitchen or your living room or whatever, and you're just looking for music to chill to or vibe to or work out to or cook to or whatever, like this is kind of, I think, a nice seamless play, and it definitely gets people into the Apple Music service. So I think it's a win for Apple. And like I said, I think as they learn more and as they add more of these playlists, which are all going to be available to regular Apple Music subscribers anyways, it's just like Siri's just going to get better, I think, going forward. So I think there's a positive element to that as well.
So Stephen Perry in the comment wonders, he's a student of life, can he get the student plan on discount? To which I ask, my question is, does Life have a .edu email address that you're registered with? Because then perhaps.
And if so, then sure.
And speaking of Apple Music, we got a little bit of additional news about Apple Music today, really, because Apple yesterday released the first beta of macOS 12.3. Is it 12.3 or 12.2? I think it's 12.2.
12.2.
You know, I can never remember which numbers they're skipping.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot that we know about this release yet, except I don't think Universal Control is in that one either. But but the big news is that the music app, and there's one more. I think it's the TV app, are being rebuilt with fully native interfaces, which is very exciting because right now, especially, the music app is really built around Apple Music. It's not, I mean, it has most, if not all, of the functionality that iTunes used to have, but it really is built around that Apple Music experience, and it's built around sort of web views within the wrapper of the music app, and now it's being completely rewritten as fully native, and the same is true for the TV app. Yeah, they're not exactly web apps, but they're also not exactly fully native right now. So this is fun. This is exciting to see. I'll be eagerly anticipating this release.
Yeah, I think a redesign and like a full overhaul of the Apple Music app on Mac could be definitely a lot overdue. I think a lot of people were still kind of burned when iTunes did go by the wayside on Mac, and the music app is, like Joe said, just so focused on that Apple Music experience, which is not everything you need. Like, sure, it's great if you have Apple Music, but it's still, there's lots of people who have tons of music libraries outside of Apple Music that Apple Music isn't quite as adept at handling as other third-party programs. Right. So if they can make it do both, which I'm hoping that's their plan, if they can kind of make it be good for both, be good for the people who want, that Apple Music kind of integrated experience, because that's important to the Apple ecosystem, but make it also great for people who have their own extensive libraries and their own digital libraries of music and things like that. I think they'll have a real winner on their hands for sure.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. That's definitely. All right. Let's see here. Other things out this week. Apple also released it. This was earlier in the week. Was it earlier this week or late last week? It was earlier this week. It was Monday. Apple released an AirTag tracking app for Android. Now, this isn't full Find My. This isn't Apple saying, go, ye Android owners, and buy AirTags for yourself. This is an app that lets Android users readily identify AirTags that have been left near them, or dropped or maliciously placed or what have you. So
it's an anti-stalking app, basically.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I don't think it's controversial to say that every phone owner should be able to have anti-stalking software on their phone so they can prevent that kind of thing. Especially with and it's nice to see, especially with AirTags so Apple centric. You have a bunch of third-party trackers that work with both Android and iOS, but it's good to see Apple put in the effort on this because it is so important.
Yeah, although it does seem like it's not executed very well. It has very low ratings on their app store. It's got 2.3 out of 5 or something like that. So I don't know if it's really great yet, but at least it's a step in the right direction.
It is a step in the right direction. This is true. We also have some news from the middle of the week that Apple is temporarily closing. I think it's 3 of its retail stores in the US and Canada due to increased cases of COVID.
Yeah, amongst employees.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's a bummer.
That is a bummer, but better safe than sorry, right?
Right.
Yeah. Let's see. And then finally,
and I think masks are back pretty much in all the stores.
Yeah, that Apple is, I think, mandating masks across the world for its stores. So again, better safe than sorry. And before we start talking about this past year, we have one more set of rumors about the next couple of years. It's actually the next couple of years. Ross Young, an analyst, is saying that
the iPhone 15 is going to be a flip phone.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't wait for you to get it out. I'm so excited.
That's good. So the iPhone 15, that's what it'll be, right?
Right. 2023 would be the 15.
I think, yeah. And which, by the way, side note, I do think it's pretty safe to call that one the 15. I think we're done with S. I think we're just looking at iterative numbers at this point. until we're suddenly
whatever
not.
they call it.
But yeah, if next year's the 14, the 2023 phone is going to be 15, and that is the subject of a new report. Yeah, Karen's right. It's supposed to be a foldable iPhone in 2023. Yes. Let's see. Not expected. So
I mean, that's the first time I've heard like a year attached to that rumor.
So this report, I think, this is Ross Young. I think that it's 2023 at the earliest, though he seems to say that 2024 is more likely. Now, he pairs this with a rumor of an OLED iPad, and Apple foldable and OLED iPad and MacBook timing, not expected until 2023 at the earliest, and 2024 at 2024 being more likely. It seems to suggest that these are sort of timed to come out around the same time, a new MacBook and OLED iPad, which I still don't know about that. And yes, the first foldable iPhone. So it's either the iPhone 15 or iPhone 16. But pretty that seems pretty definitive.
Oh gosh, Stephen Perry in the comments. You've got to know how to hold it. Know when to fold it.
That is oh man, that is.
You had to hold the iPhone 4
a certain
way so the antenna wouldn't be cut off.
Yeah, that's. Or you just get a bumper and everything's fine. But man, I miss those. Apple should make bumper cases again. Now that they're at the flat-sided rectangle phones again. Let's get some bumper cases going, Apple. But the other part about this report is the 27-inch iMac Pro with mini LED and 120 hertz variable refresh rate, which that'll be promotion, just like the new MacBook Pro. That I think is aimed at this coming year, 2022. Yes, iMac Pro and AR headset in 2022, as we discussed last week, the mixed reality headset, and then the foldable iPhone at 2023 at the earliest, maybe 2024. So thank you for your end of year predictions, Ross Young. Seems right. I don't know about 27-inch on the iMac Pro. It's certainly possible. Apple's done. Yeah, no, I don't think they actually have done 24 and 27 together before. 24 used to be the size of the large iMac before it got bumped to 27.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like I kind of expect it to be a bigger screen, to be honest.
Yeah, 30 or 32. I think.
Yeah, because the 24 sort of replaced the 21.5, right? That was sort of it was kind of a bump up. So you would think that this would also get a bump up, maybe a couple.
Go big, Apple. Go big.
Yeah.
Go giant.
I was thinking around 30. They could go 32. That's a pretty common screen size. They might go 32, but I could even see them just pushing it to 30. But I think it'll definitely be a bit bigger than the 27 model that it'll kind of sort of replace. So
I'm interested to see how it'll be different or if it will be different in terms of power from the MacBook Pro. Like, is it just going to have like the M1 Pro and M1 Max in there? Is it going to, I think there are rumors of having some kind of like double M1 Max, essentially 2 M1 Max processors in there, and more graphics cores. Or I'm really interested to see this machine possibly in the spring.
Yeah, me too. I'm also interested to see because one thing about the 24-inch iMac, and I mean, obviously it's not going to be as powerful as an iMac Pro if and when that comes out, is like, I'm curious at how much of this form factor do they keep? Like, are they going to try to go for that super thin? Because this is impressively thin. It's an impressively thin machine. But that might not be practical for an actual pro use, because there's thermals to think about and cooling to think about and stuff like that. So I'm kind of curious if I think it'll be a similar-ish design. I'm assuming that there'll be differences and hopefully some nice differences, perhaps not really many bezels, a little less bezels, maybe not as big of a chin. But then if you get rid of the chin, If you get rid of the chin, that's where like pretty much all this computer is in the iMac, in the 2021 M1 iMac. So like then that means you got to move that probably to the back if you're keeping it all in one, which I'm assuming it will be.
I think we're looking at a pretty sizable chin still. Like,
yeah, I would think, because that's where most of the computer is going to be, right? That's where most of the internals are going to be, and where it's going to have the most room. But yeah, I'm curious. I would expect it to be, or I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if I want to say expect, but I wouldn't be surprised if like it's definitely, even just based on the fact that it's going to have more hardware in it, by the sounds of it, it'll probably be a tad thicker. Like I think they want to keep the overall kind of aesthetic of the iMac lineup, but I could definitely see them going a bit thicker to sort of improve some of the performance, some things on the performance end. Not that the M1 iMac performs badly, it doesn't, but like it's not a pro machine. It's not meant to be a pro machine. And although it's quite powerful for what it is, it's not going to be as powerful as this, which means they have to incorporate, things like cooling and stuff like that. Is just going to need to be a bigger deal.
Yeah.
So,
all right. Moving on from news and rumors, let's take a look back. 2021 was another strange year. Not, I feel, as strange as 2020, but still it was certainly its own brand of strange. Still all virtual events from Apple this year, all virtual product releases. Products themselves obviously not virtual, but they were announced virtually. So we start in April, I think, was the first Apple event of the year, with AirTags and the aforementioned M1 iMac and the purple iPhone 12. And I think, was it podcast subscriptions that were announced in April?
I'm pretty sure that was April.
Yeah. And the Apple Card family plan of all things. Right. It was a real hodgepodge, that April event. Oh, and of course, who can forget the M1 iPad Pro? Tim Cook himself snuck into Apple and snuck into his own company and stole an M1 from his own MacBooks, put it in an iPad.
Yeah.
That was an eventful spring event because it was so full. But we finally got AirTags this year, and they were exactly what we thought they were. I mean, I feel like people spend a lot of time talking about where are AirTags, and they're here, and they're good, they're fine. I've got them, but they're item trackers.
Yeah.
Do both of you use AirTags?
I do. I bought a lot of Apple products this year, much more than I do in an average year. I bought a 4-pack of AirTags, iPhone 13 Pro, iPad Mini, the 5, and a HomePod Mini.
Do you have out of all of the things you purchased this year, Karen? Out of all the things you purchased this year, do you have a particular favorite?
I mean, the iPhone is my ride or die. I mean, if I'm like running out of my burning house, the one thing I'm going to grab is my iPhone. It's basically an extension of my hand at this point.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Luke, I have a feeling you didn't buy quite as much as Karen did this year, but
yeah, I mean, I probably more than I would. I did in an average year. I mean, I got an iPod or a HomePod Mini.
An iPod Mini.
An iPod Mini. Yeah. Whoops. Apple leak. Just kidding. No, yeah, I got a HomePod Mini and then AirPods 3. I got a few AirTags. And the new iPad, the baseline iPad.
Yeah.
So you got a lot too.
Yeah. So a decent amount of favorite? Stuff. I mean, probably the AirPods 3. I finally kind of bit the bullet and did the AirPods thing, and I'm happy I did. They work really well, obviously, with all the Apple tech that I have, and it's just they've been sounding great. I've been enjoying them a lot. They actually, hilariously enough, I talked earlier about how like I haven't really been listening to music that much. It's just like my music habits have kind of changed. I usually just like throw on YouTube playlists or whatever, and I just haven't been really using. But like since I got my AirPods 3, it's kind of like reignited my love a bit of music. And I've been listening to a lot more stuff now, and I think it's just because like the ability to have like pretty decent sounding headphones with me all the time that also let me like use Siri on command and, pair really easily. And I can switch between my Mac or my iPad or it's just really useful. And it's just kind of enabled me to be like, because I have these in almost every day, all day when I'm working, because I'm taking various calls or listening to podcasts or doing whatever. So now it's easy. It's easier for me. It just feels right to like throw on some music here and there and stuff like that. So I'm using it a lot more. So yeah, probably the AirPods 3 are probably my most used. Although that being said, I literally use my AirTags all the time. Because I can't find where I put my keys. Like any day I can't find where I put my keys.
You constantly lose your keys.
Pardon me. But it's gone to the point where I don't even look for my keys anymore. I literally open Find My and hit the play sound. I don't even bother.
Oh my gosh.
And sometimes, yes, they've been like right beside me and I haven't even whatever. But like I am very, very scatterbrained and I misplace that stuff all the time. I'm glad I put one in my wallet too, even though it's not really meant for that. But I kind of took one and stuck one in the back of my wallet and it's been working great. So yeah. The only thing I still wish they were a bit louder. I wish they were a tad louder. They are a bit quieter than some of the other like tile trackers and things like that are out there, but they are super useful. I use them all the time. They work really well. And since I've been trying out an Apple 13 Pro recently, I've actually got to try like the nearby feature where you got to like walk around and see it. And that's kind of fun. I think I prefer just playing the sound, but if you're having trouble with the sound because it's a little quiet or whatever, the nearby feature is definitely useful. So
yeah, or if the sound is muffled, if your item is underneath
under a thick couch cushion, for instance.
Exactly.
He says not from personal experience at all.
I'm sure not.
One of the things I really appreciate about AirTags is that they've already gotten better thanks to like iOS 15, because they have things like left behind notifications that you could turn on, and it's just a quick switch that you could flip.
Yeah,
because I don't always need my my luggage tag notifications to go off, but I'm going to in a couple of weeks. So I'm really going to want those handy. I think, AirTags, they came and went, but they're already improving. And I think surprisingly for me, fairly reasonably priced compared to the competition.
Yeah.
$30 per tag. That's about average.
Yeah, and a little less if you buy 4 of them, which it's easy. Once you buy 4, it's easy to find places to put them, even if you think you only need 2 or 3.
Yeah. We also have, kind of along with the actual AirTags announcement, we have third-party companies now making Find My compatible accessories. Like, I think Chipolo has their own tracker. They made a specific tracker for Find My, which I think now also can use those leave behind alerts, because it was the Find My app that was updated and not the actual tags themselves.
And the Chipolo tags have the built-in loop or whatever, so you can put it on a keychain, so you don't have to buy an accessory.
Yeah, and then we've got, I think, they're called the Belkin Soundform Freedom, which have, like AirPods, they also have Find My compatibility. And then you've got a couple of e-bikes from Van Moof.
So random.
But bike theft is real. Bike theft is real.
Yeah, well, for sure. But we've talked about it, whether it's a good idea to track down something that's been stolen as opposed to lost. It might not be safe, but maybe if you're working with the proper authorities. Yeah.
Remember, I said this earlier this year, but remember, you are not Batman.
Right.
Yeah.
Do not use your AirTags or your Find My compatible devices as an excuse to try to be Batman, because you're not Batman. Yeah. You're not Bruce Wayne. Very likely you don't have billions of dollars that could be better spent
or
on
super suit.
Social conditions in your city.
Or a super suit with the muscles built in.
Yeah, no, it's very important. Or if we're going by the upcoming movie, a super suit that's just seems to be built of plates of armor.
Right. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Go chasing
so
things down.
I think we had 3 big pieces of news from that event. So we had the AirTags, obviously. We had the iMac, which Luke, you reviewed for us earlier this year. The very colorful, redesigned M1 iMac. And then, of course, my beloved M1 iPad Pro. Both of which excellent devices, very different devices. I'm very happy with my M1 iPad Pro. You know, this, what are we, 8 months on? It's still fantastic. Still runs great. The screen is still wonderful. Luke, are you still liking the M1 iMac?
Oh yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I've always liked the all-in-ones in general. And when my older iMac, my older Intel iMac, kind of went on me a little bit, and then I started using, I was using a MacBook Air for a while. As kind of my main sort of writing device and kind of work device. I was always kind of like a little unhappy with it. Just like wasn't quite what I wanted. But yeah, this was kind of everything I wanted. It's like a great machine that'll definitely last quite a few years. And like, because M1 is so efficient, it's also like, it was more powerful than I was kind of expecting, which is really nice. And I've even like, you know, I kind of been recently like playing games on it and doing like things that I never really thought about doing with like Macs before, just because it kind of has that capability, which is nice, even though it's not necessarily designed for that, which is awesome. So it's kind of like it's definitely my all-in-one. It's my all-in-one computer. I do my work on it. I do my play on it. I do everything I kind of need to do. So yeah, it's great. And the screen's gorgeous. The screen is absolutely gorgeous. I know that like the price point for the iMac is like, some people thought was a little suspect, but I think when you incorporate like how gorgeous this display is and how much it would be if you were to, for example, buy an M1 Mac Mini and then find a screen that's kind of like this caliber, like this great, I think you're pretty much going to be there anyways. Even though the Mac Mini looks a lot cheaper on the onset, but remember, the Mac Mini doesn't come with everything you need to make a computer work. So yeah, I think it's great. And it's not, you know, it's not, you know, like it's not really, it's kind of in this interesting sort of middle place. It's not quite like necessarily a budget machine. Obviously it's the cheapest all-in-one you can get from Apple right now, but it's not necessarily like a budget machine, but it's like a good mid-tier that I think is like worth the price of admission. And especially like, you don't really like, I mean, not that anyone even has to replace anything once a year anymore, that we've been outside of that for a long time, but like an iMac, you definitely don't have to be replacing for a while, you know, like this will last a good while. It'll be supported for a good while. So I'm excited to see what goes. I'm excited to see what like the M1 iMac Pro, if that comes out at some point, what that'll look like.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm super happy with this. I'm glad I got it. And the colors are great. The color's great. I was skeptical of the color at first, but once I got this blue one in my house, I've just been obsessed with it. So
have you updated to macOS Monterey on it yet?
I have Monterey. I haven't updated to 12.1 yet, just because I'm lazy and I don't always do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. Get that. All right. So moving along to the next event, a mere just over a month later. It wasn't even 2 months because the April event was a little later in the month. We have WWDC, again, all virtual. I thought WWDC was a little strange this year, even versus last year, because the software Apple was showing off all seemed like everything seemed a little muted about everything this year. It was all, you know, sort of like background features, and we had iCloud Plus, and which was just a rebranding of the paid tier of iCloud, and I don't know. We had SharePlay.
I think maybe at that event we were seeing the effects of COVID, because remember the
definitely
WWDC that was in 2020, even though it was right in the beginning of the heart of COVID, they were talking about things that had been invented before COVID.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Whereas in 2021, we'd been home for a whole year at that point. Plus.
Yeah. And
so yeah. I think, you know, maybe production on new software slowed down a little bit when the world came to a screeching halt.
Yeah. SharePlay definitely feels like something someone came up with in like September or October of 2020. And they said, you know what, this would be very good, which, you know, apps are still adding SharePlay support. Disney Plus got SharePlay support this week.
Yeah.
So there's some adoption there. At least I don't know anybody who's actually used it yet, but it is now available it's finally available on macOS 12.1. And that's the other theme of the Apple software releases this year is a lot of the features that they announced at WWDC didn't end up shipping with the initial launch. Like the big one, of course, is SharePlay, but there's also Universal Control, which again still hasn't shipped, and might have been like the top feature to come out of that show because it's so cool. Now they're saying spring for Universal Control, so there's that. So yeah, I don't think the Mac, maybe not the macOS 12.2 release, but maybe 12.3, because 12.2 is going to be sometime in January or February. 12.3, that might be in the spring, and if that's the spring release, that should be when we see Universal Control. But
makes sense.
Yeah, it looked. I remember seeing that, and it looked super cool. You can go between like, a Mac and an iPad with your cursor.
Yeah.
But you could also go between like a Mac, another Mac, and your iPad. Well, like a Mac on one side, a Mac on the other. I don't know that you can go through one device to a third device. I think you have to go, side to side with those.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a lot of fun to play with, and we're going to see a lot of YouTube creators making videos showing off all the different capabilities.
Yes, I think bringing content between actually clicking and dragging content between devices is a really cool feature.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But even just, moving your cursor to a new device and maybe typing on, opening an iPad app instead of just relegating the iPad to the role of second screen from Mac, it gets to function as the device that it is. Which is nice. But alas, we have not seen it just yet. I think that might be when I start putting my Mac on a beta again, is when that beta is finally out. I won't be able to resist at that point. Yeah. What have we thought so far of Apple software releases now that they're actually out and on our devices? What do we think so far of those? Karen?
I mean, I think they're fine. They all feel very iterative to me. Nothing feels like super groundbreaking, but it's all fine. We're moving forward. It's
fine.
Moving things in the right direction. Yeah,
everything's fine here. How are you? Who's this? What's your operating number? Boring conversation anyway. And I slipped into Star Wars. Yeah, it's a very strange year for Apple software. Karen, you're absolutely right, I think, in that all of this stuff was developed at the height of COVID and, invented at the height of COVID. So it'll be a bit before we get more exciting, I think, releases. Like this year, I was kind of expecting more in the way of customization because it was such a big hit last year.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe iOS 16. Maybe iOS 16. We did get shortcuts for macOS finally, which is a big deal for me, someone who loves shortcuts. Though, as noted in a piece by contributor Matthew Casanelli that went up today, there's a lot that Apple still could do to fix shortcuts overall, not just on macOS, but at large. So keep plugging away at it, Apple. Keep plugging away. And then we move on from WWDC and we spend our summer working on pieces about the new software, what it all means, beta this, beta that, beta, all the way through August into September until finally we arrive at maybe Apple's biggest event of any year, the iPhone launch. And here we had the iPhone 13. Surprise, surprise, it looked like the iPhone 12. You got the mini, the 13, 13 Pro, and 13 Pro Max. Yeah. And these are the phones that we have now. Well, two of us have now. Luke, you have not secured an iPhone 13 of your own, right? You have one that was sent to you via Apple. correct?
Yeah, I have a testing device, so
Nice.
which I have been using for about a month now or so.
What color did they send you? Actually, I'm
The
curious.
Sierra Blue.
Yeah, that seems to be the one that Sierra Blue or Gold seem to be what are going out to people.
Yeah.
Karen, you're back with 3 cameras after taking a year off for 2
Yes.
and the smaller screen
Yes.
size. So what is your verdict on the iPhone 13 Pro?
I love it. I had gone down to the mini with the 12 and it was fine, but it was like a relief to go back to a Pro phone. And I hate to be that person, but I love me a Pro phone. I love the 3 cameras. I'm currently in Chicago. You may notice I have a different backdrop if you're watching. But I took the architecture tour on the river yesterday. It's like a boat that goes up and down the river out to the lake and back. And it's incredibly scenic and beautiful. And I took a gazillion photos. And at one point, I was literally switching back and forth between all 3 cameras to take pictures of the same thing. It just gives you a completely different perspective, doing the wide angle, the regular, and the telephoto. And you from the same exact spot, you get 3 completely different kinds of photos. So I'm having a lot of fun with it. I like it.
Yeah. And what was I'm trying to think of a feature that they announced with this phone. Do you take a lot of video on your phone, Karen? Have you used any of the new video features?
I feel like I should, just because they have added such cool features to the video with the cinematic mode and the focusing, changing the focus of the background as people move around. It does look very cool, but what am I going to take video of? My dog.
Bean. Take video of the bean.
Doesn't move.
Well, you can move around it, orbit the bean. Yeah, the other thing that was notable to me about the Pro phones, other than the every wide camera got improvements on the 13 line this year.
Yeah.
The Pro phone wide cameras though got even more improvements for last year. They didn't sit still and just keep last year's Pro Max camera and move it down to all of the phones. They moved that down to the regular phones and then upgraded the wide camera on both the Pro Max and the Pro. That's a lot, but even that is not the feature that stands out to me about the Pro phones. It's the 1 terabyte of storage that you can now get.
Yeah,
which Christine is busy filling right now with pictures of her new baby.
Yeah,
it's so cute.
Maybe as a Christmas gift to Christine, as she calls it, 1 teeb, which now my throat needs to be washed out. But yeah, the 1 terabyte of storage on an iPhone, I didn't think I'd see the day, and yet here we are. 4 levels of storage. I think the Pros still start, I think, at 128.
Yeah.
But yeah, 1 terabyte of storage on an iPhone, which is important because one of the more recently released features for the iPhone 13 Pro is ProRes video recording, which that takes up a lot of storage very, very quickly. There's a reason. I venture that ProRes video recording and the idea of 4K ProRes video recording is the sole reason that Apple pushed out a 1 terabyte phone this year.
Right.
Oh,
right.
totally.
I think the ordinary user does not need 1 terabyte of storage. And I think if you're using that much, you need to clean up your phone. But I think for people who are taking serious video, then yeah, I think 1 terabyte is in order for sure.
For most people, cloud storage is fine. That's what I would say about that. Yeah, 1 terabyte of storage, because I think it was 4K ProRes video takes up almost a gig and it takes up 1 gigabyte of space in a matter of like 20 seconds.
Right. So I think even if you're doing like a 5-minute video, I mean, that's a big chunk of your storage right there.
You will completely eat a 128 gigabyte iPhone.
Yeah.
Taking a 5-minute video. You might even not be able to do it. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, so the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro, they're out. They're great. Excellent phones. But we also had a couple of other announcements. I think that this is where they announced. Was it? No, it was the Mac event where they announced the AirPods 3, wasn't it? Everything's blurring together. They did, however, announce the Apple Watch Series 7. Didn't come out until a few weeks later, but the Apple Watch Series 7 was announced at the iPhone event. And it was not what a lot of us were expecting now, was it? Was it, Luke?
No, but like at the end of the day, that's kind of on us.
Yeah, that is kind of on us.
If I'm being completely honest, kind of fell for the hype train, right? We had those rumors. I mean, they were from pretty credible sources, and there was multiple sources at that. So like, you know, but at the end, it was a good stark reminder that no one really knows what's going to hit the stage until it's already hit the stage, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Tim Cook knows. He probably knows, I assume. But
I think we need those reminders periodically that rumors are still rumors. There's no such thing as a confirmed rumor. It's either confirmed or it's a rumor.
As Renee Ritchie, friend of the show, Renee Ritchie would always say, nothing is official until Apple announces it.
Yeah, exactly.
Totally. And sometimes even then, AirPower.
How official is it? Universal
it's
control?
not quite official when they announce it either.
That's true.
AirPower.
Yeah, AirPower. But
I just love the AirPower charging mat.
But yeah, I think kind of looking back at the Apple Watch a little bit this year, it redesign aside, there wasn't a ton impressive, I suppose, from my opinion. I think like the new screen size is awesome. Like I think, people who kind of like that big sort of presence on your hand, especially nice. And like the more edge to edge, like the thinner bezels is definitely appreciated. The more screen, it definitely looks really nice bigger faces. Bigger faces when you have like an always on display. It looks way nicer when it's like, it's a little brighter now too, which was a big deal. When the always on display dims when you're not looking at it, it's still like kind of bright enough that if you need to catch a slide glance at it or people are looking at it, they're going to kind of be able to see, what you got going on the screen, what watch face you like, which is good because an inevitable part about wearing watches, as useful as an Apple Watch is a style option. Like it is a stylish thing. Watches have been a status symbol and a style, a stylistic thing for many, many years. So, when it upgrades those little touches here and there, it is actually noticed and appreciated. So although it wasn't, some giant big redesign, which still might be coming, we don't know. Like once again, who knows? But it would be cool to see, something a little more, like I said, a little more ergonomic if they can make it happen. Just like fit your wrist a little nicer would be nice.
I don't think the squared off edges that we thought we were getting are particularly ergonomic. I think they're going the wrong direction, to be honest. I'm with you, Luke. I think more ergonomic is better.
Yeah. But if it lies a little flatter, it might kind of compensate for that. So we'll have to see what it looks like if and when that redesign actually happens. But yeah, I think the Series 7 is still like, it's obviously still to quote what Apple would say, it's the best Apple Watch they've ever made. Which is definitely true. If you have quite an old watch, maybe a Series 2 or a Series 3, and you're looking to upgrade to the latest and greatest, the Series 7 is a great option. It's definitely worth it.
I think it's funny when people get sort of angry when the updated version from the previous year is not like drastically better. It's not supposed to be, because you're not supposed to want to buy a new one every year. You're just supposed to have a newer, slightly updated option for whenever your current one goes kaput and you're ready to upgrade. Like, sure, you want brand new technology when you have to buy something new, but that doesn't mean you need brand new technology every year.
Apple's sitting here like, this really isn't for you year-over-year upgraders. Sure, we'll take your money. Don't get us wrong. We will always take your money.
Apple's not going to come out and say that. Apple's never going to come out and say, you're not supposed to upgrade every year. But
every day of the week and twice on Sundays, they will take your money. But they don't build things like that, even iPhones, with that in mind. Every so often you get an iPhone or even an Apple Watch that is a highly compelling year-over-year upgrade, but it's extremely rare that happens. Extremely rare that happens.
I think it just also comes from the fact where it's just because we're technology's at a point now where it's so good that we only can really improve on it like little bit by little bit until like eventually, you know, certain features will have big breakthroughs every year and there'll be like a big enhancement every now and then. But like year to year, you're not going to necessarily see a big jump. But like if you go back, you know, 10 years or whatever, when like every time they did release a new iPhone, it was quite a big upgrade, right?
Right.
It almost had to be.
Yeah, it almost had to be because technology was evolving at such a fast rate.
Like this year, there are apps. That was a big upgrade.
There are actual native programs that execute on the phone and not say on the internet.
So yeah, it's definitely people get caught up, and I'm guilty of, you know, especially the industry that we work in, you know, like writing news and commentating and doing opinion pieces and all sorts of things on this space. Like I'm not immune to it. I definitely can kind of get caught up in the hype train for sure. But yeah, it's a good reminder that, you know, it's you know, not everything needs to be drastically different every year for it to be good, you know, and you know, in some ways that's good because change for just the change's sake usually doesn't end up well. And usually makes for some bad products. So, and Apple's always kind of been good at that conservative approach, you know, the let's wait until the technology's ready to incorporate newer features, or let's find the best way to implement, you know, facial ID before we put it into our phones kind of thing. So
if Apple was concerned about being first, we'd have a foldable iPhone right now and it would probably kind of suck.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
And we're just seeing foldables now that actually seem to be good options. So like it makes sense that now probably we'll start hearing more and more about Apple's plans for that perhaps. And then eventually they'll launch something and it'll probably be pretty dang decent. It'll still be newer and it'll be drastically different than what they've done before, but it'll probably be like more decent than the very first Galaxy Fold. That's for sure.
That's true. We have one more event to talk about. The last event that Apple held this year is the MacBook event. It was finally time for the M1 Pro and the M1 Max. We got 2 chip variants, which was very exciting. I'm not sure anyone had that on their particular bingo card for this event. I know I didn't. So we had M1 Pro and M1 Max in a brand new redesigned MacBook Pro with a notch, which I said on this program, I was highly doubtful that Apple would put a notch on a MacBook Pro, and they did. And my goodness, did they ever. And truth is, it's fine. The notch is fine. I've been using it for
much ado about nothing.
Yeah, like a month and a half now. I've been using this MacBook Pro, and it's fine. Especially now that my favorite utility, Bartender, has been updated to work with the notch, and it's got a great. And Bartender, I think this has actually been a feature of Bartender for a while. For those that don't know, Bartender is a utility you can use on your Mac that hides, if you have a lot of menu bar items, it can hide a bunch of them behind a little icon on the menu bar, and it'll expand them out if you want to see them or want to access them. And menu bar, I think for a while actually, has had a sort of drop-down feature where you can click it, and instead of expanding on your menu bar like it does here on my Mac Mini, it can expand below your menu bar like any other menu bar app, or many other menu bar apps do already. And it works perfectly with the notch. It's great with the notch. But yeah, that is a little powerhouse. I don't think I've heard the fan spin up once to any reasonable volume, any high volume, certainly. And I've updated this thing. And that is a process that usually gets my Mac to spin up and get warm. And no, not at all. And, you know, we have Google Meet calls all week, and I use this computer for a lot of them. Quiet. It's quiet. I thought I heard it through the transparency in my AirPods. a couple weeks ago. Turns out that was just the transparency, like white noise or whatever sound that Apple has in there that they've really. I'm not going to get into the problems I've been having lately with transparency on my AirPods Pro. That's a show. But yeah, it's dead quiet and it's wonderful. But the other product really that Apple launched at this event was AirPods 3. And Luke, you were talking about them earlier. You really like AirPods 3.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as somebody who kind of held out on AirPods and was kind of like not apprehensive, but just kind of like, I have cheaper headphones that I use or whatever. And also, once again, as I've kind of admitted over until very recently, and the AirPods are kind of a part of this, but until recently, I kind of stopped listening to music as much, and it didn't become as big part of my life, which made headphones weren't quite as necessary, and things like that. So I just never really wanted to spend the money. But when the AirPods 3 came out, and they were like, in my opinion, quite significantly better than the Gen 2, and essentially AirPods Pro without ANC and without the ear tips, I was fully on board. And I'm glad I made the jump. I'm glad I got on them. And yeah, I mean, obviously they're not audiophone head files, or audiophile headphones. Jesus. And that's not what they're meant to be, right? But for somebody who uses them kind of for everything, I know that they can get a little wet because they have the IPX4 resistance. So, sweating a little bit or what have you is not going to be a big deal. Drop them in the snow, just kind of wipe it off. I mean, to try not to do that very often, but if it happens, it's not going to be the worst thing in the world. Yeah, they're just like kind of great all around headphones. I think the 6-hour battery life is great. Especially since they can charge up, like, what is it? 15 minutes of charging gives you or 5 minutes of charging gives you an hour or whatever it is when you pop it in the case. So it's like pretty easy to like take a quick break, go make myself a coffee or whatever. And then I come back and I have another hour to listen to whatever I'm listening to if I happen to run out of steam. So yeah, I think it was a good iteration on the original AirPods. And they're still like, I feel like now the only difference when considering AirPods Pro or just AirPods are just like, do you want ANC and do you like silicone ear tips? Yeah. Which is great. It's like, it's a nice product. And they still, I was, sounds weird to say, but I was happy that Apple like kept around kind of the older Gen 2s.
Yeah. At a lower price.
At a lower price to like give, a bit more of an entry level experience to people who are maybe just looking for something basic. I think that's great too. I'm glad I've been glad to see Apple doing that in general. I've been saying this for a while now, but like trying to get some of their price points and some of their products at a more entry level price point is really good. So yeah, I think the AirPods were I think the AirPods 3 are awesome. I'm really happy I got them, and I think anybody who picked them up, if you happen to maybe have a pair in your stocking sitting there right now and you just don't know, but it's there. I think you'll be happy with it. I think you'll be happy.
All
yeah,
right.
and Joe, you didn't mention the other iPad releases.
Oh my goodness, that's you're absolutely darling. Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it has been a packed year. Yeah, the iPad Mini 6. And of course, the base level iPad, which is going to be the best base level iPad they've ever had. But the iPad Mini 6, that's the
media darling, my little purple baby.
It's so great. It's wonderful. The iPad Mini 6, it has completely become a media consumption device for me in the evenings, but even during the day, especially thanks to the features like Focus, I've really been able to use it as like a walk around work device. It's better for that than my phone. First of all, I can look at the full version of iMore on it. If I need to look at something on the site or change something about the site, I can just do that with a tiny iPad, but that's still much better for that than my phone. Yeah, I've just loved the iPad Mini. It's great.
I find myself using it more for leisure activities. I was planning to give my iPad Pro to my husband, but he hasn't mentioned it in a while, and I haven't given it to him. So I'm hoping he forgot that I offered it to him.
We're just gonna see how that goes.
Yeah. So I do find the iPad Pro is much better for work purposes, just because of the size. But the iPad Mini is so wonderful. Like that's the one I carry around the house all day, and that's the one I watch videos on and read. It's become my primary e-reader and just surfing the web and
I generally like to have. I generally like to have an iPad with me, even if I've got my MacBook with me, and that's the one that I carry around with my MacBook.
Yeah, it's just so light.
It's so light, so easy to use, and it's nothing to because I generally don't like to use things in a case. So but I like to have things in a case when they're like on a table or something, just in case they get knocked off. So it's easy enough to just pop it out of the case, pop the case, because everything's so light and it's great. I love that. I love that.
Yeah, I've been really enjoying like gaming on it. It's actually kind of become like a bit of a portable gaming device for me.
Yeah.
It's like what my main purpose for it. It's so light, so powerful. With I subscribe to Apple Arcade. I like it quite a bit. And so there's always kind of new stuff to chill in there. And like it's like as much as Apple Arcade's great on your iPhone as well, it's like it's nice to have a bit of a bigger screen to sort of enjoy.
Yeah, it seems like it would be the perfect size for gaming.
Yeah, it's like
it's so light and easy to hold, so you're not going to get like arm fatigue. But the screen it's so much nicer than a phone screen.
Yeah, and then with the ability of like Apple opening up their, like pretty much any game controller you can think of is there's a bunch of them now that work with like even just your PS5, your PS4, your Xbox controllers all work with your iPad now through Bluetooth. So it's just like
that's great.
Awesome to just prop up on a table. Like it's literally kind of replaced my Nintendo Switch in terms of like a mobile gaming device. Like I used to carry around my Switch quite a lot because it has better battery life. It has like it's pretty good. Like obviously I still use my Switch to play Nintendo games on my TV. But it like my Switch mainly stays docked now. And I feel like when I'm walking around, if I want to game something, I'll just pull out an Apple Arcade game or I'll pull out, an awesome, mobile game here and there. So yeah, I've really enjoyed. It's just like a really nice, like perfect kind of size for that sort of like mobile gaming tablet, which is pretty cool.
The folks that make that, the excellent backbone controller for iPhone need to make one that has a USB-C thing at the bottom, but stretches a lot wider to fit the iPad Mini. Because I got a backbone controller this year, and it is a great mobile gaming controller. It's excellent. All right, we've run past our hour. Really, it's been a busy year for Apple. I can't believe I almost missed I did miss the iPad Mini. Thank you, Carrot. It's one of my favorite products of the year and completely went by me. But yeah, we have come down to the end of our hour. This has been the last iMore show for the year. We will see you again in 2022, maybe a little later than you expect, because in 3 weeks from now, I will be traveling back from Las Vegas after being at CES for a week. So we won't have a show on this. We won't have a show next week, obviously, or the week after, because that's Christmas Eve, that's New Year's. But then on the 7th, I will be traveling back from Las Vegas. So we will see you, if all goes according to plan, on January 14th. Until then, this has been the iMore Show. Thanks to everyone who showed up and watched live and participated in the comments. It's always great to see you folks there. Thanks to everyone who's going to listen later in their podcatcher of choice. Huge thanks to Jim Metzendorf, who makes it sound so lovely every time. And thank you, Luke, for joining us this week.
Yeah, thanks.
And thanks, Karen, for a wonderful year of co-hosting the iMore Show.
Oh, thank you.
It's been a blast. It's been a busy one. And we'll see you next year, everybody. Until then, bye.